Okay, good morning, Y11. Nearly there with your home learning. Well done for all the hard work that you were putting in on Teams. And thank you very much for providing evidence of all the work you've completed. I'm very impressed of how hard you're working and your work ethic. So as explained in our first video, today's single lesson will focus on Elizabeth. When we return this week, you will get given a booklet similar to the one on screen. I know we have focused on Elizabeth last term, but we wanted to re-go over the topic to ensure you feel comfortable with it, comfortable with the content and the material come June's exams next year. So there are 3 units to Elizabeth's exam. Unit 1, which covers Queen, Government and Religion, as per the one on screen. Unit 2, which covers Challenges to Elizabeth at Home and Abroad. And Unit 3, which is Elizabethan Society in the Age of Exploration. As you can see, this booklet covers the first unit. So before we begin today's lesson, just go over the 5 steps of successful learning, which aim to help you retain the information that we will cover. So number 1, find somewhere quiet to watch this video. Number 2, sit at a table or a desk. Number 3, turn off all distractions around you if you can. Number 4, have a pen and your old history exercise book or lined paper to hand. And number 5, remember you can always pause this video and repeat it whenever you need. So just going to today's first lesson, and as I said, you will get given this booklet when we return to school and we can go through this first page here. But just moving on to the first lesson, which focuses on Elizabeth's upbringing and how it shaped her adult character. So what I would like you to do firstly is just pause the video now and write down the title in your exercise book with today's date. So just pause the video now. Okay, so the first thing I just wanted to show you today is the Tudor royal family tree. Because of Henry VIII's various wives flying around and the lack of children from his 3 offspring, it helps to have a family tree to connect the various people. And we can go over this again in person when we see each other, and we can always kind of refer back to it throughout the course. But the main things I wanted to point out are this. Firstly, Henry VII, this man here, is the person who is the king who won the War of the Roses by basically marrying Elizabeth of York, this woman here. So Henry VII has 4 children: Prince Arthur, it'd be Prince Henry, Princess Margaret and Princess Mary. Arthur was the firstborn son and he was meant to be king next, but he dies at the age of 15 after marrying Catherine of Aragon. Because he dies, the crown automatically passes to Prince Henry, who becomes King Henry VIII. So King Henry VIII marries his brother's wife, Catherine of Aragon, which creates a whole load of problems, effectively leading to the break with Rome and the English Reformation. But we can kind of refer back to that later. Henry VIII has 6 wives, which we know. And of his 6 wives, he has 3 children. He has Prince Edward, who becomes King Edward VI, or also known as the Boy King, with his 3rd wife, Jane Seymour. King Edward VI dies age 15, and so the crown passes upwards to Queen Mary I. Queen Mary I, also known as Bloody Mary, is the daughter of Catherine of Aragon, and she becomes queen next because she's the next eldest. She is also the first queen of England. However, the Mary I also dies without any children, and therefore the crown passes to Elizabeth I. Elizabeth I is the daughter of Anne Boleyn. The problem hereafter is that Elizabeth doesn't marry or have any children, so there are continuous worries about who is going to replace her and be the next king or queen. B, Elizabeth is Protestant, okay, and we have massive religious kind of issues and complications during the reigns of all these people because of this split here and because of the English Reformation. So Elizabeth is brought up Protestant, and so English Catholics want to replace her with a Catholic replacement, who they pin on this woman down here, Mary Queen of Scots. So Mary Queen of Scots is the granddaughter of King Henry VII, and she's the daughter of King James IV of Scotland. Beg your pardon, she's daughter of King James V of Scotland. This is all a little confusing, okay? Lots of kind of, as you can see, it kind of jumps around, and after Elizabeth I, I should say, goes King James I down here. We can come back to this family tree at any stage during the topic, but it's also handy to have at the beginning of our booklet to understand the complications and all the plots going on at this time. This final sentence down here, and I'm going to change the format back, but this final sentence down here, Elizabeth and Mary were in the line of succession, but were not legitimate due to Henry's break with Rome. Henry created a new church separate from the Catholic Church that would allow him to divorce. This is a very important sentence because people questioned Elizabeth's legitimacy. And again, we will come back to that in our second lesson. So bear with me, I'm just going to change the format back and we can continue. Okay, so your first task today is to read this page. It gives an overview of what Elizabeth was like, her image, her appearance, her strengths and weaknesses. So remember, she's only the second female monarch in England at this time, the first being her older sister, Mary I. And so there's a lot of interest and speculation evolving around her because of this. What I would like you to do, please, is to pause this video and read the passage. So pause the video now, read up to rulers. And pause the video now and continue reading the last two paragraphs up to "and only God can say whose judgment is best." When you have done this, I would like you to answer question 1 and question 2 in your exercise book or on your paper. Okay, relatively self-explanatory. Summarize Elizabeth's characteristics in 10 words. And describe what Elizabeth was like as a ruler in 1 paragraph. Give yourself 4 minutes to do both of these tasks. Go. What I would like you to do next is to read through the key events in Elizabeth's life. For each event, I want you to work out how these events and experiences shaped Elizabeth's character as an adult. So you will address this in the next question. So for example, event number 1, I'd like you to read it. So the birth of Elizabeth and the execution of Anne Boleyn, 1536. Henry VIII was bitterly disappointed that his wife had not given him a son and a male heir. When Elizabeth was just 2 years old, Henry VIII ordered the execution of her mother, Anne Boleyn. Her failure to give him a son was an inconvenience to him and she was beheaded. What I would like you to think of is how this event changes and basically creates her later character. So how does it impact her later self? Pause the video and have a think. For me, it demonstrates to her the vulnerability of her gender, being a female. Her mother is executed because she gave birth to a girl, and Elizabeth is ostracized by her father for being female. What she takes away from this life experience is that perhaps she does not marry later in life because she doesn't want to lose her power. So this experience of her mother's execution and being kind of ostracized by her father for being a female impacts her by basically making her aware of the vulnerability of her sex. What I would like you to do now is just read number 2 to number 10. So I'll pause the video here for you to read 2 to 7. And then again from 7 to 10. As you go, have a think about how the events shape her future character. When you have done that, I would like you to address question 4 in your exercise book. So for each event that you have read, explain how these experiences would have shaped Elizabeth's character as an adult. Sorry, I sounded confused earlier on. So having read each of these events, explain in your exercise book how these would have shaped her character as an adult. We talked about her mother's execution and how that would have made her aware of her vulnerability of her gender. So pause the video now and give yourself 8 minutes to do this. Remember, you can rewind at any time. Your final task today is an exam question, a 4-mark exam question. Similar to Crime and Punishment, it begins with a 4-mark question asking you to describe 2 features of. You will need to identify the feature and provide supporting evidence for both. For example, my one is, one feature of Elizabeth's early life was religious uncertainty. That's my feature. My supporting evidence is, this can be seen with her sister Mary I's Catholic rule and the White Rebellion that places Elizabeth in prison. Another feature is, and what I would like you to do is come up with 2 more. So pause the video now and give yourself 5 minutes to do that. With that complete, you finish today's lesson. Remember, you can rewind at any stage. If there are any questions, we can address those in our next lesson next week. But until then, I hope you're safe. Shoot me any questions on Microsoft Teams if you have any, and we can go from there. Many thanks, Mr. Tutor.